Hey guys, I'm Pratik from Do It with ShowIt, and today I'm going to show you how to add H1 header to your website that involves different fonts within the header, something like this. So this is our exhibit A. As you probably already know, H1 is kind of a big deal when it comes to SEO. And I've seen a lot of designers and I've seen a lot of templates where the H1 tag is laid out like this. The H1 header actually is laid out like this. So this is how we read it. Anakin is your next level photographer from Portland, Oregon. But when it comes to Google, that actually crawls your website and indexes your website and ranks your website, Googlebot reads it like this: Anakin is your next level photographer from Portland, Oregon. So, as you can probably guess, this kind of doesn't make any sense because this is three different text boxes. When structured in an HTML page, they appear in three different places, three different tags. Not only that, but this is three H1 tags in one canvas that you're using: H1, H1, H1. Although you should not believe in the myth that you should have only a one H1 tag on your website, and it is important for SEO. So that is kind of a myth, but overcrowding your page with H1 tags is not advised either. So how can we achieve this inside one text box? Something like, let me just remove these from the page, and this is exhibit B. One single text box, one H1 tag over here, and then the font in the middle is the script font or a different font, or whatever you want. At the top and bottom line is a different font. So we will rate it like this: Anakin is your next level photographer from Portland, Oregon. And Googlebot will also read it like this: Anakin is your next level photographer from Portland, Oregon. So this is the correct way to do it. So now how do you go about doing this? So this is what the whole tutorial is focused on. And depending on whether you are using a Google font or a custom font, there are actually two methods of doing this. Method one is when you're using a Google font, and method two is when you're using a custom font. We are going to be tackling the Google font first. So if you are using a custom font, you can jump to the timestamp that I have given on the screen over here, and let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new page. I'm going to rename this page to H1 tutorial. Great. And let's adjust this canvas to 800 pixels. I'm going to change the background to this, and then I'm going to add a title tag. This is automatically H1. I'm going to select a different color for this one, and I'm going to change the text alignment to center. Let us increase the size of the box, and I'm going to center this again. Let us type out our phrase first. Okay. Now what we need to do is we are using a Google font called Allura Normal. So we have it added to the builder, but what we're going to need to do is we're going to import that font from Google, fonts.google.com. We're going to search for the font. You will obviously know what font you're using, so you can search for your font. I'm going to search for Allura. I'm going to click on this. And Allura has only one style, that is regular 400. Yours might have different styles, so you might want to pick the style that you are using on your ShowIt website. I'm going to pick this, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on this button right here. And I'm going to go over to import, and then I'm going to copy this. I'll go back to ShowIt. I will click on the H1 tutorial name of the page. I'll go over to advanced settings. In the custom head HTML, I'm going to paste this over here, and I will hit save. Now what I'm going to do next is hold Alt on your keyboard, and I'm going to double click on the text box. Now what this does is it opens the HTML editor. So we're going to dabble with a little bit of HTML code and CSS, but it's super easy. So we want this next level photographer to be in a different font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a span tag to this. I'm going to go behind photography here, and then I'm going to close the span tag. I'm going to come back to the span opening tag. I'm going to give it a space, and then I'm going to give it a class name. So basically what a class name means is we are giving a custom name to this set of text that we can use to target it with while using CSS. So I'm going to give it a class called other font. You can give it any class name that you want. You can do my phrase like this or my text like this, right? So I'm going to give it a name called other font. I'm going to hit space and I'm going to give it another class name, other color. So why I am doing this is because I'm going to give it another font style and I'm going to give it another color. Why I did other colors separate is because you might come across another header in your website which you might want a different font for, but you might not want that to change colors. So we are going with two separate class names. A space over here signifies that these two are different class names. The other font is one class name and the other color is the other class name, right? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and save this. Great, so far so good. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this into a different font and a different color. So we're gonna go ahead and open the HTML editor again. To do that, Alt and double click on your text box. We will give it two line spaces and I will open a style tag. Now what the style tag does is it gives way for us to write CSS code and target the next level photographer text that we have over here. So what I'm going to do is go over to the next line and write some CSS code. A period signifies a class name and I'm going to write the class name other font. So this other font, now whatever code I write after this, I'm going to open and close the curly braces, and whatever code I'm going to write here will affect this. That is within this span tag right here. Now what we're going to do is go back to Google Fonts and then you will see a CSS rules to specify families over here. I'm going to copy this line of code and I'm going to paste it here. And we're going to add a couple of lines of our own and we're going to add a font style normal and a font weight also normal. Don't worry, all of this code will be provided in the blog post, link in the description. You can go over there, simply copy the codes and then paste it. Replace the text wherever you want, right? Now we're going to change color and I'm going to copy this class name. I'm going to put a period in front. If you don't put a period in front, the CSS won't recognize this and then your code won't work. We're going to open the curly brace. We're going to hit enter and then I'm going to write color, F-A-F-A-F-A. Great. Now, if you hit save, you will see that the font has changed and the color has changed as well. Great. And I wish I could say that is basically it, but there are a couple of more steps that we need to do. Now, sometimes what you might want to do is you might want to have this in a separate line of its own to give it more emphasis, you know. Now, if you want your next level photographer, this text to be on a line of its own, we will add another class name to it. So after other color, we're going to hit a space and then we're going to add a class name, line of its own. Okay, now we're going to copy this class name. We're going to add a period in front of the class name, paste the class name, and then we will add our code here. Great. And once you hit save, it'll be on a line of its own. Now, what about mobile though? So mobile, what you can do is let's just copy this and then special paste it on mobile so we can copy over the fonts and the colors over here on mobile. Let's say we want it a tiny bit smaller, up to 28 pixels in height. And that is your mobile, ladies and gentlemen. And this is your desktop. Now, what if you want a different font size for your next level photographer over here? This can also be done, but this requires a little bit of extra steps. right? So if we set this, let's say we set this other font to font size of 80 pixels, this will definitely increase the size. But this is on desktop. What about mobile? It'll remain big on the mobile as well. So for this, in order to tackle this, we will use something called CSS media queries. CSS media queries is nothing but targeted CSS depending on the device that you are viewing the website on. So how do we go about doing this is we will add a media query like so, 981 media screen, and max width is 981 pixels. So maximum width of 981 pixels means mobile devices. And we will copy over this class name again, open the brace, and it helps if you close the brace right away so you can just write the code without worrying about forgetting about it. So once you open the brace, it's recommended that you close it as well so you can go in the middle and write your text. Okay, so we will write our code over here. That is a font size, we want it to be in the 36 pixel ballpark. Mhm. And for desktop we will add media screen, and the same line of code, but instead of max width, we will use min width. Minimum width of 981 pixel, that is 981 pixels and above. That signifies larger screens. Write the class name, open and close the brace, go in the middle, and then write our code. Font size is 80 pixels. Why not? And we will save this, and we will reload the builder. And you will see that the font size setting has applied differently on desktop and mobile, right? So that is basically it, and that is how you actually write the h1 tag. You can even select it like this and then copy it as one sentence like this. And I hope that helps. Now this is for the ones who are using a custom font for their website. Now I have added a new page called H1 tutorial, and I have added the title tag, the H1 tag over here, and I have already typed out our phrase. Now we want next level photographer to be in a different font. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go over to media library and I'm gonna see the font that we want to use. So we have this font called Avanti Script. I'm gonna copy the link to it. It'll say link copied. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna go ahead and click on H1 tutorial. This is from the first method that I did with Google Fonts. Now I'm going to add a font face. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open the style tag. I'm going to close the style tag, and I'm going to do a font face. Oh, I forgot the at symbol in front. I'm going to open and close curly braces, and in here I'm going to type my code. Now what we're going to do is give the font a name. Font family is going to be Avanti Script, and the src, that is the source, is going to be a url, which is going to be this, the url that we just copied from ShowIt media library. Of course you'll have to convert it into woof and then upload it first to the media library. I'm gonna do a font style normal, and I'm gonna do a font weight normal. This should suffice. I'm gonna hit save, and then I'm gonna go over to our h1 tag and open the HTML editor. Press and hold the Alt button on your keyboard and then double click on your text box. Now this is from the first time that I did with the Google font. I'm going to delete all of this to show you from scratch how we do it. So we want next level photographer to be in a different font. So what we're going to do is dabble with a little bit of HTML and CSS, and I'm going to wrap this in a span tag like so. In order to close the span tag, I'm going to do a forward slash and then write span. Now I'm going to give this a class name for our CSS to target this next level photographer phrase that is enveloped in the span tag. I'm going to give this a class name called other font. You can give it any name, my phrase or my fonts or my text, anything that you want. I'm going to give it the name other font. I'm going to give it a second class name. This is going to be other color. Now, why I gave it a second class name? Now, the space over here, right here, this signifies that this is a different class name. The other color is one class name, and the other font is the other class name, right? I'm gonna give it another class name called line of its own. I'm gonna get to this, but for now, we will focus on other font and other color. Now what I'm gonna do next is come down here, open another style tag. We will write some CSS code. So what the style tag does is it enables us to write CSS code and target whatever we have wrapped in this span tag, the next level photographer, right? So we're gonna copy this class name. The CSS code syntax dictates that we write a period in front of the class name. This denotes a class name. So CSS knows to target whatever tag, HTML tag that has this class name, which is in our case, span other font. We will open and close curly braces like so, and then we will write our code. We will do a font family, and we will write the same font family that we gave it over here. That is Avanti script. You can basically copy this and then paste it over here. We can basically copy both of these lines, font style and font weight, and then add it over here. Now we're going to go ahead with other color, right? And then we're going to go ahead and do color. I'm going for a little bit of an off-white over here, and then we're going to hit save. There might be some scenarios where you want this next level photographer on a line of its own to kind of give it a little bit of emphasis, and which is exactly the line of its own class name is for. We will copy this class name. We will do a period and paste this class name over here. We'll open and close the curly braces, and in between the curly braces, we will write a code for display. We'll give it a block of its own, and block. And there you have it. It's on the next line. That is basically how you do it. And now if you want different font size for this next level photographer right here, you'll have to bear in mind that you'll have to adjust the font size for desktop as well as for mobile. Now, if you don't want to adjust the font size, if you think this is great, then it's well and good. But if you want to adjust your font sizes, then we will need something called media query for CSS. Now, media query is nothing but a technique in CSS through which we target screens of different width, like mobile devices and then desktop devices, laptop devices, and so on and so forth. So we basically use something like media screen and max width. Oh, my typing is atrocious. 981 pixels. So any screen size that has a maximum width of 981 pixels will follow this code, CSS code. A maximum width of 981 pixels generally means mobile devices. So we're gonna do other font. We're gonna paste it here, and then we'll write font size. How about 80 pixels? 80 pixels too big. We will do a meager 20 pixels. And bear in mind that this has curly open and closing curly braces of its own, unlike the other codes that have only one opening and curly braces. This has a curly opening and curly closing curly brace of its own, and this has an opening and curly closing curly braces of its own. And we're gonna do another media query. This time we're gonna do minimum width 981 pixels. So that is anything that is above 981 pixels, which generally means laptops and desktops, bigger screen sizes. We're gonna open and close the curly brace. We're gonna write other font. We're gonna open and close the curly brace, and we're gonna go with font size. What the hell, 80 pixels, right? We're gonna save this. You will see that this has turned into a huge font. Now, if you want a little bit of spacing above and below this, we can go over here and we can also add something called margin top, something about 30 pixels, and margin bottom, something about 30 pixels as well. You can also combine this. You can also combine these two lines of code into one single line, that is margin 30 pixels and 0. 30 pixels signifies top and bottom, 0 signifies left and right, or better yet, we'll do an auto over here. And let's save. If you reload, this is your mobile and this is your desktop, right? I think we'll need a little bit of space on mobile as well. So we will add another margin. We'll copy this and then we'll paste this here. It's too big of a space. Let's do 12 pixels. How about that? Much better. That is basically how you do it. Single text box, one H1. I know it is a bit of a work, but for all the SEO goodness, I think this is worth it. Now Google treats it as one single sentence. We rate it as one single sentence, and it's all good, right? So if you like this video, please consider subscribing, and all of the codes will be available to you on my blog post that is linked in the description below. And please consider also joining my mailing list that is in the blog post. And please follow me on Instagram. The link is in the description again. And thank you so much for watching.